The path to parenthood isn't always a straight one. For LGBTQ+ parents, it can be especially complex, and too often, our stories go untold. This is Proud Conception. I'm your host, Rachel Gresson, and together we're giving voice to the many ways our families come to be. We're diving into how we build our whānau, raise our little ones, and shape a world where they feel seen, safe, and proud. Kia ora i te whānau and welcome back to Proud Conception. I had a bit of a laugh putting this episode together because we seem to be deep in our Ollie era here on the pod. 2 weeks ago, we heard from Ollie, a non-binary solo parent. Then we had Dr. Olivia Stewart, the fertility specialist. And now, to complete the trilogy, we have another Olivia. 3 Ollies all in a row, all very different and all very brilliant. So today on the pod, we're talking to Olivia. I was so pleased to meet Olivia through a wonderful mutual friend, Claire, who I've cheekily dubbed Head of Homo Talent for this pod. She's connected me with quite a few amazing guests now. Thanks, Claire. Olivia is wife to Karen and mum to 4-year-old Rafael. Their journey to parenthood is such a beautiful lesson in the art of pivoting because it is a bit of a story about false starts and redirections. Olivia and Karen initially thought their path to parenthood would be through Oranga Tamariki, stepping in as guardians in an urgent family situation. But that didn't pan out. And then they were offered the chance to use a personal sperm donor and went down that path for a while, both at home and in the clinic. But that too fell through. Finally, when they reached the top of the clinic's donor sperm waitlist, they had made a decision based on the profiles available to them. But then a new one appeared, and it was the perfect match. Finally, everything felt aligned. What I love most about Olivia's story is her practical outlook and the wisdom she's gathered along the way. She shares some gentle but really valuable advice for anyone just starting out, like setting yourself limits, whether that's how many procedures you'll do or how much you're willing to spend. And I just love the emotion and deep appreciation she shows when she reflects on how much it was all worth it. And when she speaks about the clinic donor, her gratitude for someone doing something so monumental for a couple they don't know in order to make this journey possible. Olivia's story is about trusting your instincts and continuing to take small steps forward, even when you've been knocked back. I think it'll really resonate with anyone navigating the unpredictable road to queer parenthood. So, here's Olivia. Enjoy. Just a note before we dive in. At Proud Conception, we share these stories from the parent perspective. We're mindful not to tell our children's stories for them or to share information of the kind they should be the first to learn, understand, and own. It's a delicate balance, but our aim is to honour their privacy while still giving space to the power and complexity of queer family building. Because of that, some details may be left out of the parent's story, or there may be parts we don't explore in depth. Either way, I'm sure you'll still find so much to enjoy in the journeys our guests have chosen to share. Olivia, nice to connect with you and thank you for coming on Proud Conception.
Thanks for having me.
I am very keen to jump into your story because I know from emailing earlier that you've got some interesting paths in order to build your family. So why don't we start with your rainbow roll call? So tell us who's in your whānau and a little bit about them.
Absolutely. So it's me, Olivia, and my wife Karen, and our son Rafael, who's 4. We also have our dog Douglas and Poppy Cat as well.
Can't forget the fur babies.
Yep. Absolutely not.
And what does Rafael call you both?
So I'm Mama, and Karen is Canadian Filipino, and she's Mom.
Oh, with the O, not the mum, but the mom.
No, and it's very Mom.
He does pronounce it like that. He really gets it. I love it. That's so good.
Lovely.
So how did you and Karen come to be parents? How did you sort of meet, and when did those early conversations start of parenthood, being on the cards?
Sure. So we met, goodness me, nearly 12 years ago now. And I just moved to Auckland. Karen's had just had a relationship breakup, and we kind of both realised that we need to meet some new people. And we joined this queer meetup group, which was amazing. And we met some really great friends that we're still friends with now there. And one night we just sat next to each other at dinner and started talking, and that was kind of it.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
That's great. And in terms of kids, I went my heart on my sleeve, and probably within the first couple of weeks, I was really clear with her that that was something that I really wanted. She kind of hadn't considered it as much, but realised that, she'd be open to it as well. So that was really cool. She comes from a really big family. There are 6 of them, all girls. Yeah. She's the oldest. And I'm kind of, typical three kids grow up on a farm kind of thing. Yeah. So we thought that we'd have quite a big family, but we're really happy with Rafi. He's kind of completed us. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Sorry, how old did you say Rafi was?
He's 4.
4, busy age. Yeah.
Busy.
Very.
Yeah,
We're doing all the things.
Age.
Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely. And so how did your family come to be? How did Rafi come to join you both?
Sure. Well, it was quite a journey. And it took quite some time. And it kind of veered in different directions. So
as they do, especially queer stories, they go off in one way and change direction, and Yeah,
they do. So I guess it started in kind of end of 2017, beginning 2018. We were working with Oranga Tamariki to potentially have the care of a family member's child in our care. It was quite an urgent situation, and we'd been working with them for a few months. And right before it kind of happened, it all just kind of didn't. So the rug was kind of pulled out from under us. We were all set up. We had the bassinet and the pram and everything, and then just one afternoon it didn't. And that was actually really heartbreaking for both of us. We hadn't necessarily planned it. It had been, like I said, kind of been an urgent need, but we'd kind of built up this hope around it.
Yeah.
And then when it didn't happen, it was really tough, but it also made us realise that it's actually something that we really wanted as well. After that, not long after that, we signed up with a clinic to go on their wait list. And
for donor sperm.
For donor sperm, yes. And before we'd even had the first appointment there, we were having brunch with a friend of ours, and he kind of said, "Oh, had you thought about using a personal donor?" And we said, "Oh, we hadn't really considered it." And he said, "Would you like to consider me?" And we said, "Oh,
wow.
I mean, yeah, sure, why not? That sounds great, and faster than the
he
other
just
path,
sprang
to
it
be
on you,
honest.
though.
Yeah,
Would you like scrambled or poached, and also would you like a sperm donor on the side?
Actually, I think I was eating poached eggs at the time, and so we went, yeah, cool, let's explore it. So we started to, and we had initial appointments with the clinic. He had tests, we had tests. And kind of in the meantime, while that was all happening, we were also trying at home with him, because we thought, oh, well, look, if it happens, great. And if not, then we'll go down that path. So we had a few funny situations with that. So I remember he'd text to say, look, we're kind of arranging it, tonight's the night kind of thing. And my wife, Karen, was going to pop round and pick it up and come back home, with it under her arm to keep it warm. And I remember I'd text some emojis like a syringe and something else, and just silly, but I'd sent it to our family group chat. No.
Oh dear. That is the coming out we didn't need. Oh dear.
Kind of. I was like, what does that mean? I went, oh gosh.
I'm getting Botox. Like, what do you say?
Yeah, don't I look fresh? And so we tried that. Karen tried it first. I tried it as well. It didn't pan out. And we thought, oh look, let's just go down the path with the clinic, and they can help us with that.
Were you doing like the whole ovulation tracking? And
yeah. We had the apps, we had everything. We got all the equipment. My best friend's a nurse, so she sorted us out with everything we needed. Very handy. And so we tried it. It didn't work. So we thought, oh, cool, we'll get some help from the clinic. And so as part of that, we'd spoken really openly about it with both our families. He'd met mine. Karen's are in Canada, but he'd met mine. We'd met his parents. It was
Yeah,
it was
pretty
quite a
open.
journey for us to go on. We're really open about it with each other. And we also did counselling through the clinic as well together too. And it was at that final counselling session, something just didn't feel that right. And we were, we left together and we dropped him off and things were quite quiet. And then shortly after, he just sent a message to say, look, actually, it's not the right thing for me, which again was quite heartbreaking.
I'm sure.
And it was, to be honest, it was it was a funny kind of emotion because we didn't want him to feel guilty, or that he owed us anything. And equally, we were, heartbroken. And so it was respecting, his decision and what the right thing for him was. And also, just, I guess, going through a bit of grief ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that was quite hard. And to be honest, we haven't had much of a relationship with him since. Not for any particular reason. It just is what it is.
I mean, it would be hard to go back to, I was being facetious about the poached and scrambled eggs, but it would be hard to go back to that sort of light, very casual friendship when you have, sat in these counselling sessions and had very serious discussions about what the future looks like and how your, whānaus will be intertwined. It is hard to probably, go back to the light and sort of fluffy stuff. So, and like you said, there would be those feelings on both sides, I would imagine, a bit of grief and devastation and maybe a little bit of anger on your part and then on his part some guilt, but also knowing that he's making the right decision for him, and it's hard.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things that, you can be thankful for that decision was made before it was too late.
Yes, because you did try at home for many months. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and look, life works out how it does. We ended up going on the donor wait list for quite some time. We were called up, I think it would have been about mid to late 2020.
Okay, so you were on there for a couple of years?
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah, and I think one thing during that process too that was quite difficult was that we had a good friend of ours who went on the wait list at about the same time as us. So she was looking to be a single mother by choice, and she got called up probably a year or a year and a half ahead of us.
Interesting.
And the reason for that is because donors can elect to choose if they want to donate to a hetero couple or a gay couple or single parents. And I guess it was quite hard to hear that there are people out there who don't necessarily support us being a family. And that meant that we also had to wait longer. And the beautiful side of that is the fact that because we did wait, by the time we got to the top of the list, there was one Filipino donor on the list.
And your wife,
Karen,
only just
joined up.
Filipino, isn't she?
She is. Yeah. And so that was pretty special. And look, it wasn't the only consideration that we made. It wasn't, oh, yay.
Yeah.
We kind of, we had this agreement that, if he kind of, if it felt right and he kind of met the other, say, criteria we were using to choose, then it was kind of meant to be. And he did, and it was. Yeah.
What were some of those criteria or things that you were sort of looking for from the paperwork to jump out to you when choosing a donor? And also, actually, how many donors were you presented with after, waiting that long?
So for us, it was less about the kind of physical things and just more about the kind of person that he was. And that's what I was quite surprised about, and what I really enjoyed about the donor profiles that we were given is that, yes, you had the expected things like height and eye color and education and family and history and things. But there were also a lot of other questions, like the one that stood out for me was, if you were having trouble making a decision about something, what would you do? And his answer was that he would, talk to some trusted people in his life and get their views and kind of consider that. And to me, that was kind of how I would approach it as well. And same with Karen. So, it was more of actually that, I guess, alignment from a values perspective and more of the person than the physical attributes.
Oh, that's fantastic. I didn't realize the clinics asked questions like that, but that does really give you an insight into the person's personality and approach to life, and that is really important, isn't it? When you're choosing, you're making a lifelong decision for this, person to be. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, as parents, we want our children, well, at least we want our children, child to have similar values to us and to value people in community and to see themselves as a piece of a bigger whole. And
Mhm.
yeah, so that really aligned for us. It was a nice surprise. I wasn't expecting there to be that kind of personal element to it. There was also, obviously, we can't see photos of donors, but he had included one from when he was probably about 4 or 5.
Oh, okay.
And
So
he
a
just had the
childhood
cheekiest
photo.
grin. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It was so
cool.
lovely. And I was like, oh, yeah, everything just kind of felt right. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like Karen's better to speak to this than I am, but I will share her experience with it as well. So there was a bit of internal, say conflict, but something that she had to work through in making that decision as well. So when we were actually given the profiles, we were given 5,
Mm.
and they were all quite similar from an attributes perspective to the personal donor that we were originally going with. And we just kind of assumed, oh well, that's who's in the mix, and we'll go with that. And we kind of ranked them. We make decisions very quickly. We had a week, took us 20 minutes,
Yeah, good.
like boom,
No,
boom,
if
boom,
you
we've
know,
waited
you
long
know.
enough, we're
Yeah.
ready to go. And our counsellor came back in and she said, oh, how are things going? We said, oh, yeah, we're good. We done? Oh, okay. And she said, um, were there any surprises, or is something that you're expecting that kind of didn't pan out? And we said, oh, look, we weren't expecting it, but it would have been great to have a Filipino donor so we could have a bit of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she said, oh, actually, there is one. And so she left and went to find the profile. And it was during her leaving we had that conversation around, well, if he kind of feels right and meets that other criteria, then great. And then we got his profile and he did. But for Karen, like, she was quite surprised that that was an option, and hadn't kind of
Mm.
prepared for it. And so I thought she'd be jumping for joy like I was, but she did need to take a few days just to really consider what the right thing to do was. And a part of that was around the fact that, she's grown up in environments where she's experienced racism, and
Mhm.
she didn't want our child to experience it as well. And so she really considered it for some time. She spoke to one of her sisters as well, which was really useful, and kind of came to the conclusion that no, it was what she wanted as well, which is fantastic. So we have a little bit of both of us, which is
Yeah.
beautiful. Um,
And she came
yeah,
to the conclusion that she wanted that sort of Filipino side, represented, I suppose is the word, in your child, because that's that piece of her, carrying through her ethnicity, and she is reflected back in the child, even though she's not genetically related. Is that sort of the
I
side of?
think part of it's that. I think we both, when it was either of us carrying, neither of us were concerned about whether they were genetically our child or not. I think part of it is, but I think the main part is actually being able to kind of continue her culture.
Mm.
So we've got lots of bilingual books here. We sing songs in Tagalog. I'm learning. Well, Rafi's learning. I can name all the fruits. That kind of thing. And we've pulled some traditions in to who we are, and I guess we've kind of created our own culture as a family, which is really beautiful.
Yeah, really
And look, we
beautiful.
might have done that had we had a white donor as well. I don't know, but yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
made
right.
it more. It's more of at the forefront of our minds now, I think.
Yeah, because there's that tie. I mean, you're certainly right. Had he not had, the Filipino ethnicity within his DNA, you still would have had that family culture, right? Because it still would have been part of who you are. But then there's that sort of additional layer as well that maybe makes a bit of a stronger responsibility to make sure that he understands that background as well. They're
Yeah,
complicated sort of values and decisions to pass through, aren't they?
yeah, yeah, they are. Yeah.
Going back to the donor sort of selection, I suppose. So you
Mm.
were in person at the clinic. You went into the clinic and they presented them in person. And was it sort of implied that you needed to make a decision then and there while you
No,
were there?
not at all. So we had, I think it was a week or 2 weeks to make a decision. We couldn't take the profiles with us, but we could make our own notes about them and take
Right.
those with us. Obviously, you couldn't take photos or anything. So yes, we did have the time. We just didn't feel we needed it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And how did you feel about sort of there was 5 that were presented to you, and then you and Karen had said, oh, we were looking for this additional thing, and she sort of goes out the back and finds another one. What did you think about that in terms of like, well, why were these 5 presented to me in the first place, sort of thing? Did that ever cross your mind?
Not really about why were they, but why was this one not? I
Mm.
think. And it's an assumption, but all I can put it down to is that the clinic had made an assumption based on our previous donor that we were going to use. I
Right.
don't know. I could be completely wrong. It could
Yeah.
just be a random thing. I don't know. We hadn't listed anything that it was that we wanted. So
Yeah.
I'd never really thought to think about what that
No.
process is.
Yeah, no, I suppose
Yeah.
for people listening who might be about to go through that experience, I suppose the takeaway is just to be really open with that communication with the clinic, if there
Mm.
are any things like that you're thinking about, because or else the clinic doesn't know, I suppose, to put those in front of you if you don't communicate them, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so you have a donor and
Mm,
we're moving forward. So
we
how
are.
does the next sort of medical steps go, I suppose?
Wow. Well, actually, I'm looking at the date today. It's the 16th. It was the 14th of October,
Ah.
2020. We celebrated as a family.
Yep.
We always do something nice, together. And so I had booked it in my calendar at work. I
Yep.
left work, got it done. Karen was like, "Oh, should I be there?" I said, "Oh no, it won't even happen the first time. Like it's fine.
And
You
this
can
was an
come to the next
IUI
one."
procedure, was
Oh,
it?
sorry, it was an
Yeah.
IUI procedure. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and so I just went by myself and went back to work afterwards and thought, okay.
That was
And then
it.
I remember I sat there in a meeting afterwards just thinking, if only everyone at this table knew what I'd just done.
Yeah. And 4 hours ago, I was definitely not pregnant, and now I could
Yeah,
maybe be pregnant. Like you kind of act like
maybe.
don't they advise you to sort of act like you are pregnant for the next 10 days until you know otherwise? So maybe I
Exactly. Maybe, or am I jinxing it if I am?
am.
And
Yeah.
I just thought because it had taken so long for us to get to this point that we still had further to go. But amazingly, we didn't, and it worked the first time, which is pretty rare, and pretty
Really rare.
magical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially for IUI, I think that's because obviously the success rates are not as high as IVF because there's a lot more sort of precision involved in IVF, I suppose, as well as the eye-watering cost, which I think we'll jump
Yeah.
onto. But that's just fantastic and awesome. Were you using a lot of medication to help with your cycles to maybe increase the chances of the success?
I did take a medication, I think clomiphene,
Mm-hmm.
and I took that. Oh, it was a couple of weeks before the procedure. And that was actually all I had to do, to be honest. We thought that I've got a history of endometriosis and things, and I was quite pessimistic about it, and we thought that we might need to kind of change that, but we just kind of tried with the first one to see what would
Yeah.
happen, and it did. Sorry, it still blows my mind that it did.
Yeah. And also
Yeah,
you had
yeah,
talked how you'd used the personal donor at home for several months or whatever. And this is,
exactly.
it isn't exactly the same as a turkey baster. We are going, into the cervix, but it's sort of essentially
It's
a similar process and boom.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Had
yeah.
you and Karen discussed, sorry to just go back a little bit, but
Mm.
had you and Karen discussed before this whole journey who would carry and sort of why you were thinking about who that would be?
Yeah, well, Karen's a bit older than me. She's 11 years older. So we started with her at home, thinking she can go first and I'll go second. Um, and when that didn't kind of pan out, and then it took some time to get to the top of the wait list, we kind of thought actually our chances are better if I just do it.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty easy decision for us to make. Yeah, like we were both very content with either of us carrying.
Yeah.
To be completely honest, I'm really pleased I did because Karen, when she's unwell, she's unwell. Um,
So it could have been a
she
long
won't mind
nine
me
months.
saying that. Yeah, yeah.
Could have been a miserable 9 months for her.
Yeah, for everyone. So it wasn't too much of a conversation by the time, like I said, by the time we got there, Karen was already in her 40s, so we went, done.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then the counselling that you'd done via the fertility clinic. So obviously you'd started some of those counselling sessions when you did have a personal donor. Did you have to do additional sessions, or was there quite a long time gap between when you originally did counselling sessions about, using a sperm donor and here are some considerations, to then, the first one and only IUI? Was there quite a time space between them?
Yeah, to be honest, we didn't actually have to do too much counselling at the clinic. So after what had happened with Oranga Tamariki, Karen and I actually saw a counsellor between us about it and just kind of processing what had happened. And as part of that, we spoke about the path we wanted to go down and how we wanted to do it. And when we got to see the counsellor through the clinic, we mentioned that, and she said, "Oh, well, if you're comfortable with that counsellor sharing their notes, if I can review them, then we can kind of see how far you are."
Yeah, what's left to discuss, really.
Kind of, yeah. So it meant that we actually only had to have a couple of sessions. So we had a couple with our personal donor and then one after that, and that was it.
And that was a while before you actually did the IUI.
It wasn't. The first ones were with the personal donor, and I'm just trying to remember back. I'm pretty sure we did one more when we got to the top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did. And then after that, that was it. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you remember any sort of takeaways from the counselling sessions that you're like, oh, like that was a bit of an aha moment, or the opposite, which has happened to me personally and to some other folks I've talked to on this podcast, where I was like, oh God, I just, hated that part and I just have to play the game, and, really frustrated at the session. Was there, did you have a takeaway from the session at all?
Not really. To be honest, it kind of felt like a tick box exercise. We really connected with our counsellor, so that might have made things easier.
Yeah.
But to me, I guess there was a bit of resentment around, no other couples have to do this before they have a baby.
Yeah.
I'm like, if we've gone this far and we've done this much to have a family, surely we know that this is what we want. Yeah, but it's good. I think any counselling's healthy, so
Yeah.
you take what you can from it. But yeah, I guess it is a bit frustrating that there are these extra steps for us to go through, and maybe not even steps, just questioning. And it's kind of hard not to take that personally. I think as a queer couple.
Yeah, I spoke to another person earlier this week on an episode that is yet to come out yet, but she said that she found the counselling frustrating because of that questioning. It was almost like they were trying to catch her out, like, you have not thought this through, and you actually don't want to do this because of X, Y, Z reasons. And I don't personally think that's what the counsellings are trying to do. I think they are trying to, help you think through all of the options and all of the different ways this could play out, both in the next 6 months, but in the next 6 years, 16 years, 60 years, really thinking long term about it. But yeah, the questioning can be challenging, I think, if you are not prepared for that when you step into the counselling sessions.
Yeah, I understand that.
So working with a fertility clinic can be rather expensive. You are very lucky that you nailed this on one IUI. Thank you, Rafael.
Yeah.
Well done, you. You embedded in there and away you went. We love to hear it.
Yeah.
But what was the sort of financial side like for you in terms of, did you have an approach to going when you went into it of, how we're gonna do this?
Yeah, so we originally, when we had our personal donor, we were really clear that we'd be covering the cost of it, and we didn't expect anything from him. And so we paid for quite a bit up front with that because of all the testing, and then I don't think it was a package, but we paid, I think, about $5,000 or $6,000 up front. And then what happened when our donor decided not to proceed, the clinic, they were fantastic. They said, look, we won't charge you for anything that's kind of happened so far. We'll keep what you've paid as credit. And so that stayed there for years until we were actually at the top of the list. And so by the time we got there, we only had to pay another kind of few $100s for the first IUI round. And that was it.
Oh, that's
So it was
great.
kind of, in girls' math, it was free.
Yeah, yeah. We paid years ago. Like this was,
Exactly.
this was the lay-by equivalent of
Yeah,
having a child. Yeah.
exactly. We've written it off. It's done.
Yeah.
So, so that's a benefit.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. So again, we're really lucky in that we had it worked the first time with IUI. We had actually kind of had a bit of an agreement before going into it though, because I think we're a little pessimistic about IUI working and what we do, like how many rounds we do, what we do from an IVF perspective, how much we were prepared to spend.
Mm,
And this sounds really black and white, but the reason why we did that is because we've seen friends go through fertility treatments, and it starts to take a bit of a toll, obviously financially and also emotionally, and from a health perspective. And so we kind of set our limit, like if you're going to an auction,
mm,
you go, cool, this is our limit. This is what we want. We're prepared to do this to get it.
yeah.
And so we kind of had that agreement between us going into it, knowing that if we got to a point and we both agreed, then maybe we could look at more. But that if one of us didn't, then that was okay.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a wonderful approach. I love that. That's really good advice, actually. Like you said, you can get to that limit, whether that's, number of rounds. So we're going to do 3 IUI rounds, or we're going to do, one egg retrieval and one go at IVF, whatever it might be, or it's a number. So we're going to spend 20K and then we're going to reassess. And it doesn't have to be, and then that's it over. Our dream of having a child is done. We're walking away. But it can just be that gate of like, okay, let's come back together. Let's reset. Is this still something we want, knowing that, we've gone through emotional turmoil, we've had some financial constraints on us for the however many months. That's a really great, approach to just keep it sort of level-headed, because it is a huge emotional undertaking, isn't it? Going through these processes, it's not easy, and it's hard to describe why it's such an emotional process. Like there's all these appointments and these tests, and there's a lot of hope, and then there's like, oh, that test wasn't quite right, and then we're going for the IUI, but something's gone, something's not quite perfect in the sperm mobility or whatever it might be. It's never just like, yes, everything went perfect from the first second we stepped into the clinic. I'm yet to hear
yeah.
that story, that everything went perfect the moment we decided that we wanted to try and become parents.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Did you have any sort of legal hurdles, or need to consider any sort of legal considerations in your journey to have Rafi?
Sure. Well, we actually saw a family lawyer when we were working with our personal donor, and that was before the clinic, when we were trying at home, because obviously you don't have the same kind of protections as you would if you went through the clinic. Um, and we just wanted to be really clear from the outset, like a bit of a prenup.
Yeah,
Hope everything will go right, but plan for everything not to.
yeah.
And so we had met with a family lawyer, who was great, and she said, look, this is how you can go about it. Obviously, if we'd gone that way, then Karen would have to adopt the child, or I would have Karen carried, and that didn't sit super well with any of us. So what we were kind of exploring was a potential for a joint guardianship,
Mm,
between the three of us, with Karen and I having custody, but keeping that relationship open with the donor.
right.
And
In
we were,
terms of his parental rights over the child. Right.
yeah, which is, I think it was actually my idea. It Yeah, it was. And the reason for that is because we didn't want to close off that relationship, for our child,
Mm,
but also we're really clear that we would be the parents and he would be the donor or uncle or whatever that relationship looked like. But that if he wanted to have a relationship, and they hang out on the weekends and that kind of thing, then they had that, and he had the ability to do that because, if it all turned to custard, he still had some rights,
mm,
which we felt was quite important.
yeah,
Obviously, it didn't get to that, and that could have had its own set of complications in the future anyway. If we
yeah,
both wanted to move to Canada, and
yeah.
he said no, and like we knew that it wouldn't be as straightforward if we did it that way. And it also felt more like a family approach to it rather than, yeah, the adoption route.
Mm. How
Mm.
did you find the lawyer, and had they done this kind of thing before? Because it's not, the
Mm.
most common legal matter that comes across even a family lawyer's desk. So yeah, was
Yeah,
this new
no.
to them, and were they referred to you, recommended to you?
So she was actually a friend of a friend. So we, who hadn't had much, that from what I could tell, not as much experience in this space. But we wanted to go with her because she understood the situation and she understood us, and we knew that there'd be no judgment around it.
Mm.
And so that was the approach. She was, a lawyer, very matter of fact, and but also very caring at the same time. So I
Mm.
felt really comfortable with her. Um, yeah, and I think if there were a lawyer out there that really specialised in this area, I'd be really happy to speak to someone like that as well. However, we at that stage we didn't know of anyone, and we
Mm.
wanted it to kind of be a non-entity
Yeah.
going in, and not have and not and just not. Sorry, we just didn't really want to feel judged in that space, and we knew that we wouldn't if we went with her.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely fair enough. It's one of the motivations for starting this podcast is, this is before you've become a parent, right? So you don't know what you don't know. You don't have a recommendation for somebody who's done this, hundreds of times for other queer families, because you're not yet sort of in that queer family bubble, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like we had both of our boys before I learnt about the Rainbow Families Aotearoa Facebook page, and like
Mm.
that has now been a great asset to me. And on that Facebook page, people do recommend, sometimes legal specialists, but other sort of specialists and people that can help with family building and family dynamics. But you don't know that when you're first
No.
starting, right? So like you don't have sort of the I don't know if I do want to compare it to this, but you did mention, when you're talking about finances, like going to an auction, you sort of set your price. It's a little bit similar to the process of buying a house, that there's so many different steps in, and you need the mortgage broker, and you need the, some sort of relationship with a real estate agent, and you need to get your insurance, and you need to line all of this up. But before you've bought a house, you really don't have any of those people just sort of already in your phone contacts list. So
You don't.
yeah, it's tricky.
And as a first home buyer, you're terrified of getting it wrong.
Mm, yeah. And here the stakes are even higher. You really
Exactly.
can't get it wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like when you were using the personal donor, you and Karen were already thinking, 5, 10, 15 years down the track when this little person will be in our life and
Mm.
eventually become a big little person. And some sort of contact with the donor when it was the personal donor was a consideration for you.
Mm.
How did that change, or did that change when you moved to using a clinic donor? Was whether the donor was open to contact something that you thought about?
Yeah, it definitely was. Our donor is open to contact, which is great. And that was important to us. So when Raf was first born, we sent a photo of him and a note via the clinic, and
Oh
then
wow.
and then he sent a lovely note back via the clinic too.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, it was really lovely. We've kind of left it there because we feel it's really important that this is Rafi's decision to make.
Mm,
It's his story. It's lovely that he has the opportunity to, and when he's old enough to make that call, then he absolutely can. We've got friends who know that this is their family, and the donor, yes, helped create it, but that's kind of where that relationship ends. And then we've got another friend who's got a child the same age, and they've met their donor. So,
mm,
everyone's really different about it. It's really interesting. So, comparing that family with our family, the one who's met their donor, Rafi's never really questioned it at all. And we're really open about it. We just celebrated, our clinic donor day. That's what we call it,
oh yeah,
CD.
yeah, yeah.
Right. And he's like, "Oh, cool, yeah, great. I get ice cream." Um,
It's so simple with kids.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Love it. Eventually, he will though, and
Yeah.
we're very prepared for that. And we talk about the fact that he has a donor, and that it was because of this person that we've never met before that we got to be this family and create it, and it's magic. And like it still blows my mind now to think that the only
Mm,
reason we have this life that we've always wanted is because one person that we've never met felt like doing something kind for someone else.
mm,
And sorry, it still gets me emotional now, just that it's incredible. Um, but yes, so we're very open about it. We expect it to be more open as he, sorry,
No, don't
Sorry, I was supposed to
apologize at
speak
all.
to
It
me.
is, no, it is
Yeah,
emotional, right?
yeah,
These are really big decisions. And like you said, we're trying to keep options and relationships open for our children because it's ultimately their choice and their life and their relationships. And so,
it is.
I mean, it's like all of parenting. You're trying not to fuck it up, quite honestly,
Yeah,
aren't you?
yeah, I know. Yeah, and there's so much to fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No.
yeah. So yes, yeah. So it's entirely up to him when he's able to make that call, and we'll support him no matter what.
Yeah.
Mm,
When
yeah.
you have your sort of donor conception clinic day, does
Mm.
Rafi just like roll his eyes and he's like, oh, here mum and mom go again, like talking about this and I just want to get on with the ice cream? Or do you sort of get the sense that he's engaged and like it's processing in the back somewhere, but he hasn't really got lots of questions yet?
I think this year there's been a bit of a change because he's 4 now, and he kind of went, oh, okay. We explained it a little bit, and yeah, I think there's something tuning there.
Yeah.
Hasn't quite come out yet, but I won't be surprised if it does. I mean, this was
Yeah.
only a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we're prepared. We've got the books. We know
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly what to say.
Yeah.
Oh my
Cool.
gosh, speaking of books, can I share something really beautiful, please?
Please do.
Um, oh, it's magic. So, for Karen's first Mother's Day, we share Mother's Day, by the way. I'm
Yes.
sorry,
Right. Yeah.
no, we split them. We don't share them.
Oh.
I don't. No, 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 no. That's my day. Thank you. Um,
How do you split them?
Karen couldn't care less. So we have Mother's Day, and then we have other Mother's Day, which is Father's Day, and we alternate years.
Oh, right. Yes.
So
Okay,
this year
cool.
I got other Mother's Day. Karen got Mother's Day. Next year I'll get Mother's Day. She'll get other Mother's Day.
Oh, cool. That's a cool
Otherwise,
approach. I haven't heard of
who
that before.
makes
I like it.
it's great. Who makes breakfast in bed on Mother's Day? The mother. So that's how we do it.
I love it.
Anyway, yeah, it's great. And so yeah, so it was Karen First Mother's Day, and I'd gone into the women's bookshop in Ponsonby, and I was just looking for a book, and I came across this one. It's titled "You Came from My Heart," and it's this
Mm,
beautiful story, and these incredible illustrations of a family that looks really similar to ours, that had gone through a really similar process with a personal donor as a friend, and essentially the main line is, "You came from your mama's tummy, but you came from both of our hearts," and
mm.
it's really beautiful. And I gave it to Karen, and she read it to Ray for the first time, and then actually looked at the back, and it is written and illustrated by two women who live in Winnipeg in Canada, which is where Karen lives,
Right.
which is like not a very common place to live in Canada.
Yeah.
Um, and these two women met because they caught the same bus every day, and that was the bus that Karen used to take.
Oh,
It's
wow.
just incredible, and
Yeah,
and
the
they look just
coincidences.
and the family in the book look just like us, and it's like, oh my gosh,
That's
it's
so
just
beautiful.
it is. It blows my mind.
But also what a treasure for Rafi because, at that age they are, I mean, simple in the most beautiful terms, but they're simple and they're visual learners. And so he is seeing himself and his family reflected in this book. And he's also
Yeah,
feeding off that excitement from you and Karen that like this book is connected to our family story and like this family exists out there in the world as well, just like ours do. We're not just there's not just us, and it's not just us out there in the world that looks different from your other friends and their families at daycare. There's lots of us, and we're all spread out.
exactly.
It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's so cool. Yeah, and even the child in the book looks like him, and he points to it and goes, "That's Rappy."
Oh, that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, yeah.
I'll find the book and I'll put a link in the show notes for anyone
Please.
listening who might
Yeah,
want to look at it.
yeah.
That's so cool.
Great. Yeah.
Did you have queer friends who had grown their whānaus before you? Like, did you have people that you were looking to, who were a year or two ahead, essentially, with, already existing children? Or were you sort of cutting your own path here?
Kind of cutting our own path. We did know of one other couple who probably got pregnant maybe 6 months before us, but we were in lockdown, and we weren't really in contact at the time.
Yeah.
Um, we've got lots of friends who've had family since, which
Mm.
is really lovely, and so all within kind of a couple of years of each other. We had other friends who were trying at the time, and we got pregnant before they did. And so, yeah, to be completely honest, there weren't many other queer
Mm.
families that we were aware of, friends with. We did meet two, though. We went to a new parents and baby group just around the corner from where we live, and there were 4 families there, and 3 of us were queer,
Hmm.
which was mind blowing.
Yeah.
Like
We're
it
up in the
wasn't.
stats.
I know, like that never happens.
No.
And so that was really amazing. So that, like, we met them 2 weeks before that big final Auckland lockdown. And I'm really pleased that we did, because we got really close during that year that we were all off, and it was really validating to have other friends in the same position.
Yeah.
We'd all kind of come to being parents in different ways, and it was really quite special. Yeah, it was just even things like, one of our friends they're raising their children in a gender neutral environment, and even just the way that, like, the facilitator was speaking about gender and things, and it was and this friend of mine, they were very open to saying, hey, can we use these pronouns please, so we can be inclusive of our family too. And that was really they're a great role model for that, and I learned a lot from them. Yeah, so that was really special. But even things like, so we'd gone to a clinic, and yay, we're pregnant, and we said, great, do you know of any inclusive carers or providers that we can, midwives, or anyone that we can go to? And they said, oh, no, but if you find one, can you let us know? Oh, okay. And thankfully we did. Oh my gosh, we had the best midwife in the world.
Oh, wow.
She's fantastic. She's moved to the UK now, unfortunately.
Oh, I think I know who this is. Is this
I think
Arlene?
you might. It is Arlene.
Yeah, she sounds like an absolute unicorn for our queer community, and a real loss to New Zealand and to the particularly Tamaki Makaurau queer community that she has moved to the UK. So yeah, she sounds like a beautiful, fantastic individual.
Absolutely. We were her first family that had reached out to her, and so I like to think that we were special for her too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, there's something really, really, really magical about her.
Yeah. I was going to ask if you had, I was going to ask negative, but the positive is much more uplifting. I was going to ask if you had any sort of negative experiences, either at the clinic or during pregnancy or since after, where people are like, oh, 2 women, what's going on here? Where's the dad? Have you ever have that in your sort of day-to-day life?
No, we're pretty lucky that we don't. One thing we did come across, though, was with our antenatal classes. We went through a really well-known one. It was kind of the only option that we had with our dates and things. And Karen did the online application and put my details in. Then when it came to hers, the other option was father or birthing partner or support person. And she went, okay, well, I'm going to pick father.
Yeah.
Anyway, and completed it, and then wrote them an email afterwards saying, hey, look, we've just done this. Can you please change your form? And they said, oh my goodness, we've never noticed that. No one's ever told us that either. And they immediately changed it.
Yeah.
Which was fantastic.
Yeah.
Not great that we had to, but amazing that they responded that way.
Yeah.
And we were also really lucky in that our facilitator for that course was queer herself.
Oh,
and I remember the first, she must have known, like, having looked at the
sign-ups or whatever.
Sign-ups. So and she was wearing a rainbow socks.
Yeah.
And I thought,
there's my signal. I see you. I see you.
Absolutely. And it was great. Like, we were, again, lucky that we had her, but still going through that process. It's still very gendered. It's still very nuclear family focused. But yeah, Karen, being Karen, questioned a lot and opened minds, and it was still a great experience. Yeah.
Good on her. Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't have to, flag the father being the only option sort of thing on that sign up, or, I have had conversations with my OB about that, in our whānau, we don't use the word dad. We don't have a dad in our whānau. We have a donor. And it is that extra mahi, right? It's that extra work and the extra burden that falls on us to have those conversations. But then I hope, and certainly is the case in this, small example of the antenatal group, once you have implored them to make the change and they have made the change, the next group of people coming through who are having their baby, a year after you, do get the benefit of seeing themselves reflected in the form.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's hard work at the time. And I'm not always sort of wearing my educator hat. It depends what mood you get me in, whether I'm like, yes, let me, take you by the hand and show you the rainbow way. Otherwise, if I'm, haven't had my coffee or something in the morning, I, sort of get the grump and think, you should already know this. This is 2025. But that actually does remind me for listeners, and I'm not sure if you have heard about it, Olivia, or if you've completed it, but a former guest on this podcast is doing some research through the University of Victoria, I believe, and it's studying rainbow families across Aotearoa, sort of who we are and how we make up our whānau and everything that goes into our day-to-day lives. What's your experience like as a queer whānau with daycares and with healthcare providers? And that survey is open now, and I implore everybody to complete it. So I will also add a link to that in the show notes because I think it's open for a little while longer. And if you haven't heard of it, Olivia, I can send you the link so that you don't miss it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of that, sorry, just to add to that, in terms of daycare, so our local daycare, I think we're the first two mums to be there. They've been fantastic.
Good.
They know that we celebrate Other Mother's Day,
Mm-hmm.
and they know who it is every year. And so I got the card this year, and they changed things. Rather than Happy Father's Day, I think said something like two mums are better than one or something.
They're not wrong.
It's just so lovely, and they're really trying, and it just makes you feel even more a part of that wider whānau. It's cool. But again, it's some of that is that you are the ones, the responsibility does kind of fall on you a bit to be the one to say, hey, actually, this is how we do things in our family. Which is fine. That's who we are. They're meeting us there, which is awesome.
Yeah. I heard someone talking recently about how before you have a child, you can kind of choose your moments of when you want to come out. And they use the example of they're in an Uber and they're just trying to get to wherever they're going. And the Uber driver says oh, you're going to your boyfriend's. And you can go, yeah, whatever. I've got 12 minutes left on the ride. Yeah, sure. Can we turn the music
He's
up?
Great.
Yeah, exactly. But once you have a kid, you do have to come out every single time that there's, the option presents itself, because you're not doing it just for you. You're doing it to validate your entire family, and you're doing it to model to your child. There's nothing wrong with our family. I'm affirming who we are as a whānau and our place in the world. And aren't you lucky that you got your two mamas?
Yeah.
And I do think about that all the time, because Rafi's 4, so you're about to do the big school transition, sometime in the next year or whatever. And I loved our daycare because it was very similar, story to yours. And I am actually yet to hear a story about a daycare where, God, daycare workers are amazing, aren't they? Those early childhood educators are incredible, incredibly giving and genuine people, authentic people. And so I'm yet to hear a really horror story from a daycare. And then school's just a different beast. Now, we haven't had a negative experience at our school at all since my eldest has started. That's not what I'm saying. But the pond is just much bigger, right? You're not one of 30 kids. Your child is not one of 30 kids. The pond is just much bigger. And hopefully with that comes some diversity in the parents, but not always. We still could be the only ones, right? Flying the rainbow flag.
And that's another thing about schools. It's so much more structured than daycare. And so with structure comes those categories. And I do worry a little bit that maybe things will change once we get into that more structured way of being. Yeah. I don't know. We'll wait and see.
Yeah. Is there anything you're thinking about in terms of, you mentioned books already, but in terms of language and conversations that you imagine you and Karen having with Rafi as he's going through 5, 6, 7, 8, as he's getting a bit older, do you see any of those conversations sort of changing, or your emphasis on your whānau changing in terms of him affirming his place in the world and your whānau's place in the world?
I don't know if we see it changing, maybe evolving as his needs evolve. We're really open about who we are, and we really encourage him to be who he wants to be. And he is. unapologetically him. It's beautiful to see. He's got long flowing hair because he wants it long and don't you dare touch it. And he wears shiny purple Crocs to preschool every day, and there's no question about it. And I do wonder though when those questions will start and what that will mean for him. And I think that's true of any child at this
Totally.
age. Yeah, so I guess we'll just have to kind of come to that when we come to that. Our biggest thing is that, often parents will say, one thing I want is my child to be happy. And for us, the one thing we really want is that our child to be themselves
Yeah.
and to feel confident in who they are. So we will always parent to that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. And final question, the people listening to this podcast are maybe sort of queer parents already themselves, but a lot of people who are just beginning this journey and, don't yet have that little person to, kiss goodnight. For those who are just starting the journey that you've already walked with, Karen, what's your advice to them when starting this journey?
This is absolutely going off our experience, and it is absolutely worth the wait. So whatever that wait looks like for you, whatever kind of bumps or clouds come across your way, keep going because it is magic when you get there.
Oh,
yeah.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much, Olivia. It is so nice to connect with you, and I hope our paths cross in person one of these days, thanks to the mutual friend bringing us together, so I'm sure they will. So it's lovely to meet you and to hear your story, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Rachel. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Proud Conception. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider passing it on to someone you think might connect with it as well. Don't forget to follow the show and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And come hang out with us on socials. We're just getting started on Instagram. We're at Proud Conception Pod. Until next time, take care, and let's keep building a world where our little ones feel seen, safe, and proud.